Starting recording. Okay. So I'm here with Sam Stauff. I am Dave Klang from MEI Studios, and we're going to talk a little bit about music, recording, and kind of anything else that's involved in that world. Learn a little bit about the industry. I've been laughed at for saying the industry before, by the way.
Yeah, I always feel I hate saying that. Like, oh, yeah, the industry. Yeah. I don't know what that is. Once I find out, I'll let you know. But I don't know.
I had someone outright tell me there is no industry. What industry?
There is an industry, but I think the record label people say that to feel cool. But I don't think anybody on our side of it considers it that. You know what I mean? Maybe they do. I don't. The more I'm in this, I'll say business, the less I know about it. I feel like.
It's interesting though how we're in a point. I might as well acknowledge the fact that we're in an interesting time in history, and how the gig economy is dried up. There's no more gigs to be had. Pretty much. I don't want to say entirely, but more than 90% of like gigging musicians, their jobs are wiped out. You know, so.
I would say, yeah. Everyone I know that doesn't work at a school is like out of work. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Well, especially the live sound people. Like I know a lot of live sound people, and they're just like on hold.
Yeah.
I don't know about the studio world. I don't know I know people are mixing from home and mastering from home. But I don't know like as far as sessions and stuff if they're still really happening or not. Like, I haven't really seen.
I guess it depends on the place probably and how many people you have involved in that kind of thing like that. I know where we are at MEI, the location we have right now is smaller. So, when we have 5 people in a smaller space like that, especially that are coming from New York City, it's just like, it's a little iffy. But yeah. I'll step away from that, and I want to talk about you, Sam, because you are Sam, and that's why you're here. So you're many things. You wear many hats. I've never seen you wearing a hat actually, but
it's gonna look really weird. Doesn't it look really weird?
It looks good, man.
Does it look good?
It's a good look.
Is this screen like really killing you? Should I turn it off? Like, I mean, I'm in quarantine. You know, I am working full time still for now. But the time is at nights and stuff. I'll be mixing.
You are a recording engineer. You're a professor. You're a studio manager. You're a musician. Am I missing anything?
No, yeah, studio manager, engineer, musician. I just do music. When people ask, I'm like, oh yeah, I do some music.
That's what's up. What's the most recent thing? Was the Poor George your most recent release?
No, I think Wide Water had something more recent.
It's hard to keep track.
Yeah. I mean, I think last year. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you what's going on with Wide Waters now, because you had a couple of really talented guys. I know Phil was involved, and I think it's just going to be you and Justin now.
Yeah, we had a lot of great people on the first record, and then Justin and I wanted to make a completely ambient second EP, and so it was just me and him. And now we're working on stuff. Again, he just got a computer and stuff at home. So we're going to make probably a whole EP just apart, especially, almost just because we can. Like, okay, let's just see if we can. I think we'll be able to pretty easily for that kind of music. West Meets West was supposed to record. We were supposed to do a lot actually this year. We've canceled a lot of shows and stuff. We're supposed to record a song too and put it out by August. I'm not sure if it'll happen. But that's really hard to do without the 5 of us in a room together. You know?
The band stuff is tough, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, what are you guys doing? You guys are probably just.
Well, we were lucky enough that before we had any idea that we weren't going to be able to get together, we cranked out a single.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's not out.
Okay, I didn't see it yet.
You know, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell anybody, but you know, we recorded a single, and we're gonna work to have some content. I think I'm fishing out some like old live shows with like a single camera, which in the jam band thing it kind of works. You know, people just kind of want to hear the music and improvisation, that kind of thing. There are some bands that I like a lot that are kind of our peers that are like that have a good archive of live recordings that are like doing like live like radio streams of their music kind of stuff. So and then obviously everyone in the world and their mother is doing like a little live recording where they're doing some cover tunes and stuff. And those are cool to see. It's nice.
It's nice to see them. They're all really terrible quality that I've seen so far.
I've seen a few people with a couple of inputs, with a couple of microphones that are decent. You know, obviously they're not like really mixing it, but you know, they're getting a couple channels in and people are like, that's good. And
it's not even so much that, it's just that once it gets uploaded, it's just, you know, combined to such a streamable size that it's tough to like make it sound that great. But I think we're going to see that get way better in the next few months, just because like if that's the only way we can see live bands, it's going to get way better.
We'll see. You know, who knows how long it's going to be before live music resumes exactly as we loved it before. We'll see once that eventually does happen, how that new, you know, where that digital element will form. You know, you think that that's going to be a part of what goes on in music a little bit after all of this craziness. Exactly what you said, because like necessity is the mother of invention, and people need better streaming quality, and it's going to up itself, and then people are going to have that capability, which is really cool. So
I think it's really nice because it's enabled us to like also see some amazing songwriters like in their home, just like playing an acoustic guitar. Like Ben Gibbard's doing some cool ones. Kevin Devine, Page of the Line. Wes is going to try to do one just with me. So that'll be interesting. Though I'm going to film it and just release the video. I'm not going to do it live.
Yeah, the live thing, like I've been working on a bass cover that's like very involved with harmonics and like playing, like holding down notes while playing harmonics. And I'm going to release a cover of that. I'm going to do it to a drum machine at some point. I should like do it today, you know? My laziness is the only thing that stops me ever. But you know, I have the thought of going live with it, and it's just like, what if I mess up? Like, you want to, you know, we're recording studio guys. We like to be able to like pick our take and that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's a lot. But so with West Meets West, that's like the band that you've been involved with. How old were you when you started West Meets West?
We were in college. So,
okay. Were they all Mercy College guys?
We've had so many different members, but at first, yes, yeah. It's like two main sections of the band the way I see it. But the first section, was me, and then like my best friend Brian at school at Mercy, and then we had a drummer named Jesse, and then we had a bunch of different drummers, and then you know, I do a lot in the Connecticut music scene, and so. It ended up being like members from there now and from New York, so a combination of the two.
That's cool. What year did West get started?
I guess it's like 2006 or 7. It's been a long time.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, it's like literally doing like Steve Ward's electronic music projects. You know what I mean? Like, and developed into something more.
That's where all the greats begin in Steve Ward's class.
That's true. Yeah. But our first record really came, we really, 2011 was like our first real record. Then we had 4 before that I erased from the world. So.
Were they different songs entirely?
Yeah, it was 4 full-length records of content.
Do you perform those?
We did. We played out with those. Yeah.
Do any of those old tunes? get
We
resurfaced?
play one song from that content.
Wow, that's so like.
And it's pretty rare. Like it would be hard to play it. The Bering Sea, like it would be hard for us to play it. And we re-recorded that at a different, like we erased the album that was on, and then we re-recorded that song in 2015. Yeah,
That's funny, man.
Andy Porter went to Mercy, and then Justin joined about 2 years ago, and Justin Krass went to Mercy as well.
Great piano player and keyboardist and
He's
all around guy, wonderful guy.
He's great looking too. He's beautiful.
We love having him around. You know, I wish things allowed me to just like be in the same room as him and give him a big hug right now.
Yeah, he's always fun. His quality, once you know him, he's like a lot. Possible. You know,
it's funny. You know, bandmates are always the characters in our lives in a certain way. You know, there's no one brings you more joy, but more drama and all that. You know, everyone that I talk to that's in a band shares that experience.
You guys didn't meet at Mercy. You guys just all ended up there, right?
I got involved with those guys at Mercy.
Oh, so right.
I came into the mix with them at Mercy. They're all, 3 hours north of me though. So, and they lived in the same town. So there was kind of a void for a bass player there, and they didn't really have original tunes. They kind of got their originals cranking right as I joined, and we came up with the name right as I joined. Yeah. So to a degree, I'm a founding member of Hilltop, but there was stuff brewing before I had anything to do with the guys.
That's cool. That's the beauty of college, right? And like just meeting people there. And that's,
yeah, man.
It's awesome.
Such a cool experience coming together, and
You're welcome.
Now, is Namaste thank you?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Yeah,
I've also throughout this like pandemic of the world, I'm realizing how ill prepared I am to do anything else in the world except for like record drums.
You haven't prepared to go out hunting yet?
No, I tried to go shopping. I couldn't even go shopping for food properly. I don't know. It's
starting to turn into hunting a little bit,
Yeah.
But I got into Mercy in 2015, right as the studio was being finished. Do you want to talk about like the building of that a little bit?
Sure.
Bit? It could be.
Well,
we could be here
we could be here for a while, but we moved in 2012 from White Plains, and we had a pretty badass studio out there. I don't know if you ever saw photos. It's still a studio today, actually.
Oh, cool.
It's a private kind of more vocal based productions. So we moved in 2012, which I was really mad about, because I had this like beautiful it wasn't mine, but like, as the kind of de facto studio manager at the time, moving was really rough. And then we moved and we only had what is now Studio B. We pretty much only had that and like an even smaller Studio C. And we rented Riverworks, which is pretty cool. But so from 2012 to 15, we designed the studios that and it was like an amazing opportunity to like learn. And I had we had already rebuilt the studios at Mercy and White Plains once before. So I had already gotten familiar with like ripping gear out and like reinstalling all the rooms. I pretty much did that once a year for like 8 years before that, because like they would need to paint or they'd need to redo the carpet, or we'd get a new, a whole new patch bay or something. So I got pretty familiar with like redoing the rooms. So by the time we're in Dobbs Ferry, the studios, we kind of really knew what we wanted. And I was able to really, now it seemed easy, but I literally remember almost breaking down crying in some meetings, literally just asking for vocal booths and drum booths. At one point we weren't going to have that. It was just going to be a big room. I might have cried, but like literally was like on the verge of crying, being like, we need to have some booths. I wanted 3 actually. And we have 2 plus a pretty big room. I think that turned out fine. And then just learning, Steve Lucero was a big help, Kessler, Phil White, and we did hire a contractor. There was an acoustician, but the general layout of the rooms was kind of Phil and myself, and we were working with that prefab space. So it wasn't like
you could set the dimensions.
Yeah, our hands were kind of tied with like how big it could be and how tall the ceilings could be. But even like the studios being kind of sideways, you know what I mean? Like that was not common, like from what I saw. I think it's more common now, but I really like that vibe of having the studio, like the people to your right or left, because then they can see if you're like on your phone, they can see if you're like, because in front of you now we have a screen and we have speakers, and you can't really see past it anyways.
Yeah.
So I kind of like having the studio on one side of you, especially like Studio B for like vocals. You can just kind of like have a conversation and not be so far away from people, Yeah,
it fits right into the layout of the workstation too. It all just kind of flows right together. We have that in our current location. Construction's a little bit on halt right now, but we've been working on a new space, and Anthony, the owner, has been working on a zero latency, or he has it, he set up a zero latency thing. So the drummer is going to be able to see a screen where he'll be looking at me, and vice versa. We'll be looking at him on a separate screen, a separate monitor in the room. That way, if we need to time cue or anything like that, which happens every so often, you can literally give them the exact cue.
You don't have glass in your studio, or
don't have what?
Glass.
So there is glass. There's a sound lock with 2 doors, but you can't see the corner that we're putting the drums in. He actually made one corner with like no lights over, no electric around there, so he could have ribbon mics without any noise. He kind of made like a designated drum corner over there.
Okay.
So visibility was just lacking over there. So that's just one thing that he wanted to set up there, which is pretty cool. When we're all cranking there, that'll be a cool thing to see.
I'll be interested to see how the video works. I've been fortunate to not have to really use that too much, the video stuff. It scares me a little bit. Actually, I did do it in a studio for voiceover in Brooklyn, and I didn't like it. It's just I can be very cocky because the space we have it, but like it's a tough thing to if you don't have, you gotta. I think that's the best way to make it work though with the screen. Obviously, it's better than not having it.
Yeah, than not having any line of visibility. Although, to your point, he did have to try a couple of different. He bought a few different camera systems, and they had latency. I think it was maybe the 3rd time was the charm for him.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe people were saying that there wasn't latency, and there was probably some sort of analog to digital conversion that was causing latency in it. And he found a system that's entirely analog that he was cool with.
Okay. I was going to say, because if it's digital system, there's always going to be some kind of latency.
Yeah, it's entirely analog apparently for some reason.
Coax through the wall or something, or?
Yeah, I mean we have all sorts of connections running through the wall. So I don't want to say anything that I don't really know that well, but I would guess that's what it is. But it'll be real cool when everything's done there.
I'll come check it out.
Yeah, dude, that'll be really cool. I'm excited to have some of my Mercy people come check it out.
Yeah. I think now that I remember, I think you guys were posting some photos of you guys recording a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, so that was in open now. It'll honestly be quite comparable to Mercy's Studio A, Studio B.
Nice.
Like Studio B is what's running and operating now. And then once that's done, that's the bigger live room, and the majority of the outboard equipment is going to move over there. So then that Studio B, you could call it, is going to be more for vocals and that kind of thing, and for mixing and XYZ.
That's awesome.
We're still, it's really exciting. Anthony is really a great dude, and I'm happy to be involved with him and his studio and his company and everything, because he's taught me, I've told him before, like he's taught me just in going to sessions with him and running sessions that he's given me and finding my own, I've learned almost as much or a comparable amount in his studio as I have in college, you know?
I think part of our, idea is like, you can't learn everything from just going to school. And in fact, like you're just not going to, there's so much you have to do. I don't even think 4 years is enough to like really do this stuff,
I certainly got out of college and, it's not like I was like the A1, you have a certain cocky kind of sense like, oh, like, I studied this, I'm so qualified. But then you see, I got lucky and got involved in like a crew gig where one guy that's involved in it, he's been involved with like TV broadcasts for like Don Imus and like all sorts of different programs and like Fox and NBC, and talking about like, oh, this guy's mixing the mix that goes to TV. I'm doing it for the audience. And then someone's got the monitor, just talking about all the different kinds of stuff that they've done. And I'm, I hear that and I'm just like, wow, like I went to college, not to bash that, but like the level of professionalism that guys have is just like, you can get overwhelmed. And that made me realize that, and I've said this to a few people, you graduate, you finish middle school, you're a freshman in high school. You go from being a senior in high school to being a freshman in college again, and you're brand new. And, you really feel like an adult when you're a senior in college, but then you get to the workforce, and it maybe take some time to realize like, oh, I'm a freshman again. Like,
yeah, totally.
So,
I mean, there's people like, even like Steve Lucera, he'll be like, oh, Sam, how old are you? Like, oh God, you're like, and like, I've been doing this now really like 10, 12 years. And so I'm still fairly young in this too, so yeah, you're a freshman. I think any college I don't think anyone I hear people bash music schools all the time. Like, oh, you're not ready for no, we're not claiming you to be ready 100%. Like, we are providing the opportunity for you to be ready enough to then, when you're in these internships and, jobs, that you're going to be able to excel quicker at those positions, so to me, that's the big goal. It's not like you're going to get a huge paying gig, though some people do. I would say most don't, though. And like, we're preparing you to get ready for those jobs. You're not just going to like get this big job, though some people are. Like, I'm thinking of some people that graduated and are immediately working at NBC Sports. But even there, it's part-time. And especially now, everything just got canceled anyways.
It's that definitely was a wake-up call for me as the most recent graduating class. It's like, oh, like, you heard about the financial crisis in 2009. I remember having a conversation with a nice guy at a concert who was fresh out of college at that time, and he's like, yeah, man, I couldn't find a job flipping burgers, and he had a 4-year degree. I don't remember what it was. Now he works for an insurance company, but it just shows like it's impossible. And at some points it's real tough, and you just got to tough it out. Like, I'm here, I'm okay.
Yeah, it takes a long time, and if you do something every day that just forwards you a little bit, just something a little bit every day, it'll work out. Like, I don't come from any musical background from my family, really, not really. I didn't have any connections in the industry. I worked in a factory, and then I went to school for this, and just very slowly you start to like, and then, at 32, you wake up and go, oh, okay, this is cool. I've been doing this. Like, I'm paying my bills and I'm, making money, It just takes, there's not a flip that switches. It takes a very long time.
Yeah.
A very, very long time.
Yeah, it definitely, it took it took maybe me and a lot of my classmates coming into Mercy to make that full realization. I remember like students asking people like, yo, like, how do I get noticed? Like, and it's like, people don't understand. It took me, I had to form a band and realize that no one noticed to figure that out. You know what I mean? And it's always an uphill battle to just kind of to put yourself out there, and it's never a quick. It's not a snap. But I want to add.
So the one thing I'll add is like, that's why my biggest advice is just come and hang out in the studio for everybody, because eventually you're around everybody, you're learning the lingo, you get asked to go sit in these sessions, you might help me move gear. It might seem like little things, but eventually it's like, oh, I'm helping, I'm doing this. Like, I hate to, Tiernan's always the example I bring up. Like, he literally hung out every day over the summer and wasn't getting paid, was not a student worker. He just wanted to hang out just to learn. And by the time he left, he was a paid employee because he became so valuable,
Yeah.
So, and he's one of the last examples, but like Justin and Isabella were just hired. You know what I mean? Someone like yourself would be qualified to be hired as well. It's those are the people that, like, we want to help you. The people that just like literally show up an hour late to class, you're just like, I'm not against you, but I'm not going to go out of my way to like fight for you, because you're not fighting for yourself.
Okay, I'll bring it around because you mentioned being an hour late. Here's an interesting question for you. What are some of the differences between teaching and touring?
Yeah, I mean, they're very different. I think ultimately the same things apply, like being on time, being responsible. Teaching, there's a certain amount of professionalism, like, because there is like you are a student, you're paying to be there. Whereas on tour, it's more like, hey, we both have a job to do. We're both professionals, in quotes. And like Lacera, who's my biggest probably mentor, right? He has a saying like, we're gonna have a hard day, we're gonna have an easy day, but either way, we're gonna get through this. Something like that, something along those lines.
Yep.
So most of the time, most people you meet like want to have a good day. Like, there's a few people that are just gonna give you a hard time. But I was extremely surprised how nice people were to me as like a 25, 26-year-old like guitar tech monitor engineer who like didn't really know enough to be doing that job, to be honest. Like, people really saved my ass in a lot of ways, like strangers that I would say I would never see again, but then like next year we'd play the same venue, I'd see this person again. And then I have a friend named Jim that literally I was like drum teching, like I think it was like our second show with Blue Oyster Cult, and he came up to me, he's like, "Oh, you're not a drummer, are you?" I'm like, "No." And so like he helped me drum, like really set up the drums better, you know what I mean? He didn't have to do that. Like, he was like a road warrior. He's been on the road for the last 30 years probably, like, so he like took the extra second to like help me. And so it's more, that's different. Whereas in school, hopefully you can do that too. I don't know. They're different things. They're different things.
Well, so you were at a pretty young age. You were touring with Blue Oyster Cult, and you said you'd done drum teching for them. You did guitar teching and monitors for them also. Yeah.
So the way they worked, by the time I got on board with them, there was only two techs, sometimes three. So if only two techs for 5 musicians, plus a keyboard rig, so it's almost like a 6th musician. So it was 2 people, and you would just kind of, each of you would get half of a stage. So to say drum tech, you just kind of set up. At a certain point, I was setting up everything, like, you know what I mean? Depending on who I was. At first, I was filling in for the two techs. So if person A wasn't there, I would do their side. If person B wasn't there, I would do their side.
Yeah.
And then when I was full time with them, I don't even remember. We just rotated so much. You ended up doing everything.
And then so many gigs too, and just kind of such a rinse and repeat sort of thing that it's just like.
Yeah. And then eventually I did monitors, which is like really an intense job to do. Again, like, didn't really know what I was doing. But eventually, like, eventually got through it. I wouldn't say I'm like a great monitor engineer. I don't think they would say that either. But I got good enough where I could get through the show. And the main issue is there's a different desk every night. So
Yeah.
I literally remember showing up in Greece, and we would almost always use digital desks, which I got fairly familiar with the most common ones. But then in Greece, we showed up and there was like a huge analog Soundcraft console that I'd literally never done monitors on that kind of desk with that amount of auxes and everything. And again, like the monitor tech didn't speak English, and so
beads of sweat,
Yeah, but again, like that dude and I got through it just based on like hand signals, and like he helped me and we figured it out. So again, like just doing the gig, and being just being positive is the most important thing. And just like if you're messing up, just like try to stay cool about it. Like,
yeah, you do your best. I had an interesting situation. It was like a little bit after the new year, before all this craziness started. It was really like, I guess it was the second kind of show of like a series that I was doing. I was like the guy that was going to be mixing monitors for this series, and it got closed down now. But the whole concept of it was to have like different national touring acts come in. And this, for me, this was like kind of a big lead up for like the first national act that like I'd get to work with, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was like the second time, like new guest who's the national act that's coming in, and she's a great singer, someone that I had seen perform before. I'm just not going to name names because I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, you should.
But everyone on stage is super nice, and I'm on the stage as they're sound checking and like running through tunes, standing right next to people as they're singing, so I can hear their mix and that kind of thing, which is a super cool experience and a super welcoming kind of vibe from the musicians in a way, because they don't have to do that,
No.
So yeah, I even felt like starstruck. It was like, damn, I was literally watching this woman sing at the Beacon Theater last year, and now I'm just like standing next to her, like adjusting her monitor, which is really cool. And she was super nice, but she gets on stage and she was totally right. She was like, this mix sounds different than what I heard before. And this is someone that like I look up to, and I'm just, like the sweat starts. And it's like, okay, like I was running monitors off of an X32 in front of the house, had an M32, and I had the iPad in front of me, and I'm sitting on the side of the stage like, okay, like what can I do? Because the mistake that I made, it was totally my fault, I'll be honest with you. There was an opener that came on after that sound check, and a couple things got switched around, So I had to mute, like a guitar mic that was probably like just live in her thing, probably wasn't killing her. There were a couple like on the 32 band EQ, a couple of things that I wanted to pull up for her, that kind of thing. But eventually, after 2 minutes or something, she looked back at me and gave me we're good. And that was like one of the most relieving feelings I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding too. It was cool.
No. I mean, I have similar stories, and that is like a whole semester's worth of learning in that day, right?
Yeah, you're not kidding, man.
And just being able to be like, yep, I fucked up, and fix it. That's all people care about. Like, because they're not going to remember that you've messed it up. They're going to remember like, oh, he fixed that problem. Like,
yeah, and the singer was so polite and so gracious after, that's the word, and was like, oh, you did a great job, you got that nailed right in where I needed it to be, like, awesome. And like talked to me and was like friendly with me, and I got to chat with her for a second, which is cool,
That's that's how you get hired for certain things. Like, oh, what, that person was good at this, or like, yeah, man, it's I've had very similar situations, and it's like even still I have those situations. I mean, with either the peak performances or Leon Bridges is coming in, and it's like I love him, and like, actually there was no issues with him, but like there was Michael Kiganawa. He came in, and one of his singers, like their headphone popped off, like literally like nobody's fault. But
what do you mean by like popped off? Oh, like the little twist thing?
Yeah.
On the AT, on the audio.
Yeah. And like, you know, nobody's fault, but it was like an issue, you know what I mean? And like, but you know, I ran out and we fixed it. And, you know, so I think 20 seconds of a song was like kind of screwed up or whatever, but she was such a pro that she was fine. Like it sounded fine. You know what I mean? Maybe she heard something, but she was so pro that it wasn't a problem, you know, but those little things just, they happen, you know?
Yeah, exactly what you were saying about staying positive. Like people that are real professionals for the most part are gonna give that back to you. You know what I mean? If they see you're trying to do your job and they're nice and you're nice, they're gonna give that kind thing back to you. Hopefully. If not, then you're probably working with the wrong people. Honestly.
Well, I have straight up been yelled at on stage, but you know, that's ridiculous.
I mean, there's a time and a place, kinda. And like I work for a company now, the company that I got that gig through, like all the guys that I get thrown on a crew yet, like there's a certain kind of camaraderie there, but they're like, hey, like has the boss ever yelled at you? And I'm like, no, not yet. And they're like, oh, just wait, you know. Like, so, I mean, like, I don't know. Getting yelled at in an appropriate time makes sense, you know. You understand that in the heat of the moment that shit's going to go down. But you just everyone needs to be able to cool off. Like, I one time at a session at Mercy, or a session set up at Mercy, I was, you know, in the wrong, or I don't know if what the issue was, but I was in the wrong because I yelled at the person that I was doing the session with because I had, you know, just 30 inputs to take care of and I was overwhelmed. And you need to be a big enough person to apologize for yelling at someone, you know, especially, I don't know, like whoever's right to me can be a moot point, you know, if you're yelling at someone and you're right, like you're still yelling at someone. But hey, you know.
Right, you know? My wife's in the other room. She came to a live sound class once, and I was definitely yelling at students.
Sometimes you gotta. Well, students also, it's a different story too, because I mean, there's a whole world of disciplining and kind of teaching. That's part of the lessons a little bit. Is like, yeah, like it's not going to be a smooth ride all the time. And there was when I first got to Mercy, there was a man who was certainly laying down the law there. And I respected him, and I had an easier time with him than most. But a lot of students have a difficult time with like a real authority figure.
Yeah. Are we talking about my former assistants, or are we talking about
your former assistants?
No, we're not talking about. Or are you talking about me?
Oh, laying down the law?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen you lay down the law in the studio before too, you know, because that's no joke. It's I've always said it's kind of like it's such a balancing act trying to give students access and trying to keep equipment safe.
Well, try to keep equipment safe and be ready and professional. You know, that's my biggest pet peeve with the school is, you know, I don't mind students. I want them to be in there and use it, but it's like realize that like the amount of time and money it costs to put it all together. Like, you know, it's not uncommon for the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and not to mention time went into like making these things ready. And like, you know, so when you drop a microphone or you know, if you like so many, like when they break buttons on like a preamp, you're like, why, like how did you break that? You know what I mean? It's like, cause I think when you intern and when you work in a studio, you learn like how to handle even like a guitar. Like someone broke on the Strat, someone broke one of the knobs off it. Like, how do you break a guitar knob? Like, well, if you've never handled a guitar before, been shown how to, you know, you might just break it, you know?
Yeah, for real. And it's hard you can't be in every session, like, you know, so it's,
yeah. But that's like, how do you learn? Well, you learn by doing and messing up. But, you know, it's like, so you need to just, and that's kind of why I have a job is like, okay, well, when they mess it up, I can fix it, you know?
Yep.
Ultimately, as much as we try to run it as a full studio, it is a school, you know what I mean? Like we try to run it like a real studio, and we do, but it is a school. So it is a mixture of and there's things I would do very differently there if it was my studio alone, you know? But
gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I learned that too, getting to go back and forth between, you know, Mercy's studio and MEI where I get to do sessions. And at MEI, you know, it's kind of in a good way, it's Anthony's playhouse, so like if he has a signal chain that he likes to use, whatever it might be, the Neve through the LA 2A through a high pass, low pass filter, or something like that. Like he's gonna have that patch there, and for a lot of different things, he's always got his SB 4000 compressors on like inserts 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, like that kind of stuff. So like you get used to like kind of how different studios are different. At Mercy, since it's used by so many people, if you leave a session, like you want it to be back at 0, so the next person comes in and they have their stuff. I don't know. You definitely get to see.
It's kind of the beauty of Mercy though too, where like sometimes people will do things with gear, and I'll go, I never thought about using it that way, because I'll get stuck in my like, I'll get stuck in my ways of like, I always use this on overheads, or I always use this on kick drum, and then I'll hear someone like, I used, something I would never even consider using, and then it sounds like great, and you're like, that's amazing, like
Yeah. I'm having that a little bit here, just like a lot of the software that I would use at the studio is just not in my hands anymore. And, I'm limited, but in the same way, it lets me find different avenues, kind of.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot in. I want to ask you a couple more things. One of them, I think you're at liberty to talk about it now, is your work at the Olympics.
Yeah, and my upcoming work at the Olympics that was just canceled.
Oh, man.
I was scheduled to do the Olympics this summer, and they just moved it. I mixed the basketball games for the 2016 Rio Olympics specialty channel. So that's a mouthful there. And this goes back to what we were talking about. My friend Mike is like, I forget his exact title. He came in and did a guest lecture. I don't know if you were there, my friend Mike. He's like the head, if not one of the heads of audio at NBC Sports.
Okay.
In Connecticut, and so he was in bands when I was growing up, and he like managed venues, and we just knew each other from playing in bands. And they were looking for people for extra help on the Olympics. And so he asked, was like, well, how do you say no to that? You can't.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Yeah, it was an honor. And so, I went for like a month. I just went there every day and just sat down at a digital console. And I had, I have to be a little vague because I'm not sure what I am allowed to say, but there was the elements of the mix, and I would mix that. And I'd be in the room with the director and the video person, and the three of us, and then whatever support staff was also there would kind of mix those for the specialty channels, though.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means, but
yeah.
I was very not the biggest concern of theirs, and I did some soccer as well. But there's probably there's a handful of people like me doing that kind of stuff. It was amazing. It was a great opportunity. I'm hoping to go back and do more. And I know Justin and Taylor have been doing similar stuff there. So we'll see. But it was amazing to be in the States, but still working on the Olympics that were in Rio. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so that was remote. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I was not in Rio. Yeah, I came home most nights, though some nights were so long that we would stay over.
Wow.
But most times, now I knew people that were in Rio, and I would talk to them on comms and stuff. So there had to be teams there, and there had to be teams at home. I'm assuming there were teams all across, the world receiving it. I'm being a little vague on purpose, but because I don't know, what. But
was there? Did the basketball players curse?
No, I never heard.
Because as someone that watches a lot of basketball, there's a lot of mic muting that goes on.
I think there's a slight time delay where I think it's someone's job to like mute that. That wasn't. trying to remember. We did have to I would have to crossfade between feeds and stuff. I don't remember if anyone swore ever though. I want to say there one got through. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't want to say.
From the basketball perspective, you get less trash talking because no one speaks the same language, you know. But
okay.
I've watched a lot. My dad's a huge basketball fan. You can't watch 3 minutes of NBA without hearing like some guy. You still hear it, distantly. One guy just at the top of his lungs just like screams out the F word or something.
I think the Olympics, maybe people it's the Olympics, so it's a little bit more like. But really also, cool. Mostly there'd be commentators. It wouldn't be like basketball players talking. Really, it was commentators. So
yeah, they're not going to scream the F word.
I would hope not.
Okay, so we're getting up there in time. Can I ask you one last interesting question that I kind of want to start asking everyone because I've seen other people ask it of everyone?
Okay. All right.
Can you think of a nightmare gig?
I've had nightmares about a lot of gigs. A nightmare gig. I'm going to stay positive with this.
Good.
Just do the gig. You're probably getting paid. If it's a nightmare, you're probably getting paid.
No, have you ever had like an experience though that sticks out as like you were like sick and like any interesting or any strange like treatment from people at a venue or anything like that you feel fine to mention?
Yeah. There's a few I can think of that I don't want to talk about. You kind of, I don't know, you just kind of forget about the really bad. I'll be honest. Like, yes, we all have really bad days. Like, I mean, literally, I think I just got fired off a record a couple days ago. So like, that sucked.
Hey, congrats, man.
Yeah, it'll happen, So, it's,
gotta keep your head up.
Yeah, it's a lot. It sucks. It never feels good, but, there's always something else to work on, like always something else to work on, and that's the thing like about having your own music too. Like if you have a day off, like you can still work on Hilltop stuff, or I can still work on any of my projects,
Yeah.
Usually if I lose something or don't have time to do something, it's like, okay, I can shift my focus and do something else. And, yeah, I don't know if that is just,
no, it's a really positive message, honestly, because like you're gonna run into a lot of crap here and there, and like if you can keep a positive attitude, like don't go home and eat a tub of ice cream and sleep for 40 hours and then wake up and say, oh, I have nothing to do. It's like go home and like work on playing your instrument, work on mixing something, whatever it might be.
The two things I'll say is one, like I all the time I forget, and I try to remind myself, like whenever someone pays me to do something creative, like, and I'll take the money. Like, oh, thank you. Yeah. It's like, remember, like that's a huge deal. Like they're like I hardly pay people to do that because it's expensive to pay people to like make your records and make your videos and stuff. Like, so when people pay you, even if it's $50, like that's a lot, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. So I try to remind myself, like even this morning when I was like not loving this song, like they paid me, so like I should just suck it up and do a good job on it. And actually, I think they liked it. So I did a good enough job, but it's,
it's worth being grateful.
Everyone knows it's someone from overseas, by the way. So
it's worth being grateful if someone hires you to do something, especially in this field,
Yeah. But then at the same time, like you're gonna have shitty days, like no matter what.
I gotta go through it.
Yeah. So
that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I'm gonna stop the recording now.